My friend, what if some of your prayers are the very reason you feel spiritually stuck? Listen carefully to this teaching and relax your mind. What if the problem is not that God isn't listening, but that some of the things you keep praying are coming from fear, desperation, pride, or misunderstanding? Because not every prayer is healthy, and not every prayer brings you closer to God. Some prayers actually reveal that your heart is moving in the wrong direction. That's dangerous, because many people think prayer automatically makes something right, but the Bible never says every prayer is pleasing to God. In fact, some prayers come from jealousy, some come from selfishness, some come from emotional exhaustion, and some come from trying to control things God is asking you to surrender. The Bible says in James 4:3, "When you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives." Let that sink in. Wrong motives. That means you can be sincerely praying while completely missing God's heart. And if you don't recognize it, you can spend years praying prayers that keep you anxious, fearful, bitter, emotionally dependent, or spiritually immature. Because prayer was never meant to be manipulation, it was meant to be alignment. And sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is stop praying certain prayers completely. Not because prayer is wrong, but because the posture behind the prayer is unhealthy. Before we go deeper, pause for a moment. If this message is already speaking to you, take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs spiritual clarity, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And I want you to do something honest. In the comments, type this: "Lord, align my prayers with your will." Because that one shift can completely change your spiritual life. Now listen carefully and make sure you watch to end, because stage 4 will change your life and how you pray, and God answers. Today, we're going to uncover 6 prayers many Christians keep repeating without realizing how dangerous they can become. Not to shame you, not to stop you from praying, but to help you pray from wisdom instead of emotion. Because some prayers sound spiritual on the surface, but underneath them is fear, control, insecurity, or unbelief. And the first one is a prayer many sincere believers pray almost every day without realizing what it reveals about their heart. Suspend any means of distraction and listen to this teaching, because you have a lot to learn. My friend, the first prayer you need to stop praying is this: "God, remove every difficult thing from my life." Now at first, that sounds reasonable, because nobody enjoys pain. Nobody enjoys pressure, rejection, confusion, or struggle. So naturally, when hard seasons come, many people immediately pray for escape. God, take this away. God, make it stop. God, remove the discomfort. But here's the problem. Not every difficult season is an attack. Sometimes it's training. And if God removed every uncomfortable thing the moment you asked, you would never grow into the person He's trying to shape you to become. The Bible says in Romans 5:3-4, "We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." Notice that. The struggle had a purpose. The pressure was producing something. And this is where many believers misunderstand God. They assume that if something feels painful, it must be bad. But some of the greatest growth in your life will happen in seasons you never would have chosen for yourself. Because pain has a way of exposing things comfort hides. It reveals your fears, your pride, your impatience, and your dependence on control. And through that process, God begins shaping your heart, not to destroy you, but to mature you. Think about it honestly. Some of the strongest lessons you've learned in life did not come from easy seasons. They came from heartbreak, disappointment, waiting, failure, and moments where you had no choice but to trust God deeply. And that's why this prayer can become dangerous, because if your only goal is comfort, you may resist the very process God is using to transform you. Now hear me clearly, this does not mean you should pray for suffering, and it does not mean God enjoys watching you struggle. That's not the point. The point is this: stop praying only for escape and start praying for understanding. Instead of saying, "God, remove this immediately," begin asking, "God, what are you teaching me through this?" Because sometimes God will calm the storm, and sometimes He will strengthen you in the middle of it. And honestly, that second one is often where real spiritual growth happens, because faith is not proven when everything feels easy. Faith becomes real when you still trust God in uncomfortable seasons, when you still pray while confused, when you still obey while waiting, and when you still believe even when life feels heavy. That is where maturity is built. So stop seeing every hard season as proof that God abandoned you. Some seasons are not punishment, some are preparation. And in the next segment, we're going to talk about another dangerous prayer many Christians repeat without realizing it's rooted in fear and insecurity rather than trust in God. My friend, another prayer you need to stop praying is this: God, let everyone like me. And many people don't say it exactly that way, but deep down, that's what they're asking for. They want approval, acceptance, validation. They want everyone to understand them, support them, agree with them, and speak well of them. And honestly, that desire feels human. Nobody enjoys rejection. Nobody enjoys criticism or misunderstanding. But here's the danger. When your need for approval becomes stronger than your desire to obey God, you slowly begin changing yourself to keep people comfortable. You stop speaking honestly. You start hiding convictions. You avoid difficult truths because you're afraid people may pull away from you. And little by little, your identity becomes shaped by people's opinions instead of God's direction. The Bible says in Galatians 1:10, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God?" That question is powerful because it forces you to look at your heart honestly. Who are you really trying to please? Because if your peace depends on everyone liking you, you will spend your entire life emotionally exhausted. You will constantly adjust yourself for people who were never meant to define your worth in the first place. And this is where many believers become spiritually trapped. They pray for acceptance more than they pray for courage. They pray to avoid rejection instead of asking God to help them stand firm in truth. But hear this clearly. Jesus himself was misunderstood, rejected, criticized, and abandoned by people, not because he failed, but because truth does not always make people comfortable. So stop believing that everyone disliking you automatically means you're doing something wrong. Sometimes obedience will separate you from certain people. Sometimes growth will make others uncomfortable. And sometimes following God will require disappointing people who expected you to stay the same. That's not pride, that's maturity. Because your purpose is too important to build your life around people's approval. And honestly, the more desperate you become for validation, the easier it becomes for people to control you emotionally. That's why this prayer becomes dangerous. It keeps you dependent on human acceptance instead of rooted in God's identity for your life. So instead of praying, "God, let everyone like me," start praying, "God, help me stay faithful even when I'm misunderstood." Because real peace does not come from being accepted by everyone. Real peace comes from knowing you are walking in alignment with God. And in the next segment, we're going to uncover another prayer many believers repeat without realizing it keeps them spiritually weak and emotionally dependent instead of mature. My friend, another prayer you need to stop praying is this: God, do everything for me while I do nothing. Now, most Christians would never say it that directly, but many people live that way without realizing it. They pray for change, pray for healing, pray for financial breakthrough, pray for stronger relationships, pray for opportunities, but avoid the responsibility, discipline, and action that often come with those answers. And over time, prayer becomes an excuse for passivity. They wait for God to move while ignoring the things God already told them to do. But the Bible never teaches a faith that avoids responsibility. In James 2:17, it says, "Faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." That means real faith moves, real faith obeys, real faith responds. Because God often answers prayers through direction, wisdom, discipline, and opportunities, not magic. And this is where many believers stay stuck emotionally. They keep praying for God to change their life while refusing to change their habits. They ask for peace while feeding anxiety every day. They ask for financial growth while remaining careless with money. They ask God to strengthen relationships while avoiding difficult conversations and personal growth. And then they wonder why nothing changes. But hear this carefully. Prayer is not meant to replace responsibility. Prayer is meant to align you with what God is calling you to do. Noah still had to build the ark. David still had to face Goliath. Peter still had to step out of the boat. God moved, but they also moved. And honestly, this is where maturity begins, when you stop waiting for God to do what He already gave you the ability, wisdom, or opportunity to do yourself. Because sometimes the answer to your prayer is already sitting in front of you, hidden inside obedience, discipline, consistency, and action. And this is emotional for many people because deep down, they're tired of feeling stuck, tired of repeating cycles, tired of waiting for life to suddenly change. But real transformation usually happens slowly, through daily obedience, through uncomfortable growth, through small, faithful decisions nobody sees. So stop praying prayers that keep you passive. Stop waiting for God to carry responsibilities He already asked you to manage. Instead of praying, "God, do everything for me," begin praying, "God, give me wisdom, discipline, and courage to do my part." Because God is not trying to make you dependent forever. He's trying to help you grow. And in the next segment, we're going to uncover one final prayer many sincere believers keep repeating without realizing it's quietly rooted in fear instead of trust. My friend, the final prayer you need to stop praying is this: God, never let my life change. Now, most people would never say those exact words out loud, but many people pray it emotionally every single day. Not with their mouth, but with their decisions, their fear, and the way they resist growth every time life starts shifting. Because deep down, change scares them. The unknown scares them. Losing control scares them. So instead of asking God to transform them, they quietly ask Him to keep everything safe, familiar, and predictable. But let me ask you something honestly. How long have you been holding on to a version of your life that God may be asking you to outgrow? How many opportunities have you ignored because fear talked louder than faith? How many times have you stayed in draining environments simply because they felt familiar? And how many prayers are actually rooted in fear of change instead of trust in God? Because growth will always require movement. And movement is uncomfortable. It stretches you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. That's why many people stay stuck for years. Not because God stopped leading them, but because they became emotionally attached to comfort. And honestly, maybe you already feel it inside. That quiet tension. That feeling that something in your life needs to shift. Maybe your mindset. Maybe your habits. Maybe your environment, maybe even the way you see yourself. But fear keeps whispering, what if things get worse? So you stay where you are, even when your spirit feels restless, even when you know deep down that you're no longer growing there. And this is where many believers become trapped emotionally. They pray for peace while resisting the very changes that could lead them into it. They ask God for a new season while emotionally holding on to the old one. They want transformation, but without discomfort. And unfortunately, that's not how growth works. Because every new season requires letting something old go. And that's painful sometimes. Painful to release what's familiar. Painful to step into uncertainty. Painful to trust God when you cannot fully see where He is leading you. But hear this carefully. Staying comfortable is not always the same thing as staying safe. Sometimes the greatest danger is remaining in places God has already outgrown you from. And maybe that's why you've felt restless lately. Maybe God is trying to stretch you beyond what feels familiar. Maybe He's trying to move you into deeper faith, deeper maturity, and deeper trust. But you keep praying for everything to stay the same. And deep down, you already know it can't. Because you cannot pray for growth while resisting change. You cannot ask God to transform your life while refusing to move when He starts opening new doors. And maybe today the real question is not, God, why is my life changing? Maybe the real question is, am I trusting God enough to grow through it? Because real faith is not controlling every outcome. Real faith is trusting God even when life feels uncertain, even when you don't have all the answers, and even when the next step feels uncomfortable. And as we close this message, I want you to think honestly about your own prayers. Are they rooted in trust or fear? Are they helping you grow or keeping you emotionally stuck? And maybe today is the day you stop praying from panic, insecurity, and control, and start praying from surrender. Because sometimes the greatest breakthrough in your life begins the moment you stop asking God to keep you comfortable and start trusting Him enough to let Him change you.